And welcome in, everybody. It's Tuesday evening. Regional weather meteorologist Matt Wentz with you here this evening, tracking the potential for severe weather here as we go throughout the evening and overnight hours here across the region. Thank you guys for taking time out of your schedule to join me. I know it's dinner time right now. I just got out of, we had not parent-teacher conferences, but basically parent orientation for all the kids' classes in school. And, now that we've got two in school, it's like rush here, rush to this one. The one presentation was really long. I'm so tired. Anyway, that's it. It's almost bedtime for me. So that's it. So I want to kind of give you my schedule here because we're not going to make this long. But I want to kind of take you through what I'm expecting to happen on radar as we go throughout the evening. It's one of my favorite things as a meteorologist is doing radar analysis and not doing the easy stuff. Here's where the storm is. Here's where it's going. But figuring out how the radar is going to evolve as we go throughout the rest of the evening. All right. So I have a pretty good idea. Doesn't mean it's right, but we'll dive into it. All right. Quickly want to thank our sponsors, FBIbuildings.com. If you need a new pole barn or need one reconstructed, Minogue.life is a website to go. If you have any questions around life insurance, how much you need, do I have enough? Am I paying too much? Michael will let you know. PSA, publicserviceadjusting.com. Those are our public service adjusters. They're all local licensed insured. If you have an insurance claim or storm damage, God willing, go to them first. They'll take care of everything between you and the insurance company. They're great. They'll get you more money than you get if you did it yourself. Ewing Mechanical Services, they've been working overtime. It's ewingmech.com. They have great specials on AC tune-ups. If you need a new system, it's not too late. They'll get out and get one installed and out the door for some pretty good prices right now. They've got some good specials on that. ewingmech.com. Tigerplumbing.net. Our local plumbers, we love them. They come out for free. You can do everything on mobile, which is great. Great plumbers. If you have some water flow issues going on. And Grigos, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Valparaiso. We love them. They're local here to Northwest Indiana as well. All right, here's what the radar looks like right now. We have a severe thunderstorm watch. Lake and Newton counties. It kind of gets into Porter County and Jasper County as well. But either way, we have a severe thunderstorm watch out for another 4 hours or so. Radar is starting to light up like a Christmas tree. All right. We know it was super hot today. Okay. We had the hottest day of the summer so far. Unofficially, I've got us at 94 at the Porter County Airport. We'll see. Chicago hit 97. It's just a scorching hot day. It wasn't necessarily the air temperatures. It was the humidity. You threw in the dew point today, which was up around 74, 75 sometimes. I mean, that's incredible dew point. A lot of that off the corn crop in Iowa and Western Illinois, like we talked about on Sunday evening. But you put those two numbers together, it felt like more like 105 to 110 today. Just incredible stuff. Still hot outside. We're still in the low 90s. Dew point still elevated. So all that to say, we have so much fuel for these storms. These storms can be huge this time of year. And I don't mean in terms of damage and all that. I mean, they are going up 50, 60,000 feet in the atmosphere. You can get the biggest growth of thunderstorms in this kind of setup because the instability is off the chart because we've got heat and we've got super high levels of humidity. All that fuels storms. So the radar right now, we've got all sorts of storms blowing up real fast because, again, it's super unstable outside. The big question on this modeling is always where do they blow up and where do they go from there? All right. The models have been zero help. They did not pick up on this line going through Michigan. So I feel bad for folks in Detroit because the models were saying they'd be dry for much of the day and they'd get rain overnight into tomorrow. And instead, they're dealing with an evening of severe thunderstorm warnings. That is how this pattern goes. It is not predictable outside of maybe 2 to 3 hours out. We know the atmosphere is loaded, but it doesn't always happen. It doesn't always spark. And so the way I'm going to kind of reference this right now with these storms that are up towards, the Algonquin area, Winnetka's getting a good storm right now. We have nothing here in the region, right? It's just hot and humid. You look off towards your north. Actually, you can look out towards the east and see those big thunderheads heading out. But if you look off towards the north or the northwest, you can see the towering thunderheads, and you can actually see the clouds coming off of those as the anvil kind of comes out in advance of that. It's those storms that we'll be watching here as we go throughout the evening hour. But let me zoom in just a little bit closer here because I want to get a little bit more localized. So we've got a couple things at play right now. These storms sparked on an outflow boundary from earlier storms that were out in Iowa. This was this morning. We had an area of energy coming east. It interacted with our lake breeze. So a lake breeze developed today. And what the lake breeze is not that you need to know this, but I love to let you know the why. We've got cooler air out over Lake Michigan, right? And that cool air is heavy, dense. It sits at the surface. And if there's no real strong wind at the surface, it wasn't a windy day, right? If there's no real strong wind here at the surface, keeping that cool air out over the lake, it likes to expand because it's heavy and dense. And so that's what your lake breeze is. Whenever you don't have a strong wind, that cool air out over the lake is allowed to expand because it's heavy and it's dense and it can't go in the ground, so it comes out. And so that's what we saw. And that's what you see here on radar, this line that you see that stretches from the Gary into Whiting area, eventually getting up into Southside Chicago, and then just west of the city itself. That's the lake breeze itself. Well, here comes a boundary in here, and you've got wind coming off the lake. You have energy coming in from the west from earlier storms. That's coming together. That's producing the lift, and it's like popcorn. It's literally like popcorn, just popping super fast. You get these storms to develop. These storms have had golf ball size hail like crazy. Hail's a big threat with these kind of storms, and it will be for us here tonight with any storms that we see, and damaging winds as well. And the damaging wind component comes from, some of it's from the jet stream, but a lot of it's from how tall these thunderstorms grow. You have rain that's falling from way up, thousands of feet up in the cloud, and that's falling and bringing wind down to the ground. And so you can get almost microburstish potential, but not really, because we don't have dry air at the mid-levels with this one. But you can get some really powerful winds as everything's falling from way up high in the sky. That can create some momentum and bring some air down to the ground and really create some wind energy with this as well. Plus, there's a mid-level jet that's punching into this. Either way, these storms are pretty darn big here this evening, where they are getting storms. So what do we have in store here, right? We're going to keep our eye on these storms. So what's happening right now, these storms up towards Algonquin are putting out an outflow boundary, all right? You could see it there on the last radar slide, how it's kind of sliding further to the south, that little line that comes out from that. That outflow boundary is going to interact, that's wind pushing out, that's going to interact with the lake breeze boundary, which exists over Lake County right now. And what I'm expecting to see with this is at least the potential for storms to fire along this lake breeze boundary as it kind of goes down to the south. So I would imagine, and this is a super tricky forecast, this is not a guarantee. I would imagine the storm that we have right now, it's very well organized. I would imagine that holds together, but new storms are going to form off of this over the next couple hours, and they could quickly go severe. And what they're going to form is more than likely along that lake breeze boundary. So this line that we have right here is pretty much dictating where storms could pop here over the next hour and a half or so, okay? And that does include Lake County first here in Indiana. They would pop in Chicago first, downtown, west side, and then they pop the south side of Chicago, and then we'd see them pop here if they are going to. So the way I'm going to kind of let us know what's happening or how we're going to teach this here tonight is the stove's on. Let's say, here's what you're doing. You're popping popcorn on the stove right now. Okay. You've got one of those little churny popper things. We have one. My wife loves to use it. Best popcorn you can possibly make. But we've got the kernels in there right now. Okay. Just bear with me. This is going to work. We've got the kernels in there. We have the oil in there as well. And we've turned the burner on. It's hot outside, right? And so what we're doing is we have kernels. It doesn't mean all of them are going to pop. Okay. So that doesn't guarantee that we're going to have even a thunderstorm here this evening. But the kernels are really hot, and they're going to pop real easy, and they're going to start popping along this boundary. And that's kind of what we're sitting on right now, are hot, oily kernels. Does that work at all? If that doesn't work, let me know. But anyway, it works in my mind. So that's kind of what we're sitting on right now. Okay, our atmosphere is a loaded keg ready to go right now. And I really think as this storm complex sinks south, I think it'll pop more storms along the way. And I do think we get some pretty decent thunderstorms around here. Maybe another hour and a half, 2 hours. Could happen sooner, could happen later, but that's kind of my timeline on that. Okay. So that's my radar analysis in terms of what's going on right now. What you can do right now, because that's the best information I can give you, is how do you prepare for this, and how bad is it going to be, right? This isn't going to be blockbuster. This isn't going to be a giant derecho coming in that's going to flatten everything with strong winds. Okay, that's not the way this is going to go. These are just going to be decent, big storms, like good summertime thunderstorms. All right. If we get one to pop over the region, it'll likely go severe pretty quickly because our atmosphere is loaded. Instability is off the charts right now. And what that will do is cause a very mature thunderstorm to grow like that. Okay. I don't want that to sound scary. That's just the atmosphere we're in right now. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. Our tornado threats low from this. It's not zero. It's a little bit higher where the storms are right now. There's a little bit more jet energy, as I mentioned, up in Wisconsin and northern Illinois. So they do have a tornado threat from that there locally. It's not off the charts, but it's there. And we do carry a low tornado threat here. My main concern would be for very large hail, and it'd be for pockets of damaging winds out of this. Okay. This isn't going to be for everybody, but the potential's there that some of us see that tonight. Okay. That's how it goes. So things you can do right now, just make sure. I mean, and again, none of this is like prepare for the apocalypse. I never want to speak that way. But things we can do just to be safe. Make sure your phone's charged right now. Okay, just get it on the charger in case you lose power. All right, not saying we're going to lose power. But the other thing is that I would probably advise, no matter what, is if your car's outside, bring it into the garage. If you have a carport, park it under the carport. Just get your car out, or anything that you don't really want to be hailed on. If the potential's there, get that under cover. Okay, go get the kids' toys, stuff like that. Whatever you need, just bring it in. Okay. Anything that is loose outside, perhaps you left the cushions on the patio furniture, whatever happens to be, might just want to pack those away tonight as well. Again, not guaranteeing damaging winds for everybody, not guaranteeing a thunderstorm for everybody. But the way this is going to go, I've got a pretty decent feeling that we're going to get some good storms out of this tonight. All right. And some of those are going to be hailers. Okay. Hail could be as large as $50 with some of these later on this evening. Again, not saying everyone's going to get that, but the potential's there. Okay. I have to tell you what the ingredients are in the atmosphere and what they can produce. And those are the kind of things they can produce. Okay. So those are some things you can do right now. I want to show you two more things, and I'll answer your questions, and we'll get you on your way. Just want to obviously give you a heads up on this. Okay. I'm going to throw on here the Cape, and I'm going to zoom out real quick. So I want to show you what atmosphere we're kind of working with here. We show Cape all the time on Region Weather. It's big words: convective available potential energy. In small terms, it's atmospheric energy, or how much juju, how much lift and buoyancy is there in the atmosphere. And it's measured by these like rainbow colors you see here. Normally, the worst and highest Cape is off towards the west, where they have the most energy. That tends to be where we fall in the summer. Look at where we are right now. We are right in the middle of the highest Cape right now. These numbers are as high as you can possibly get any time of the year, especially summertime. I mean, they're there where we're talking, typically for a severe thunderstorm, for a storm to be strong enough and get organized enough, you would need anywhere from 500 to 1,000. If we're putting a number on it, 500 to 1,000. Okay. It's joules per kilogram squared. We don't need to worry about that. So 500 to 1,000 is the number you need. We are up at 5,000. We only need 500. All right. And we're up anywhere from 4,500 to 5,500 joules per kilogram squared. Crazy amounts of energy in the atmosphere right now. And a lot of that's product of temperature and dew point, right? It's scorching hot. We've got dew points off the charts. But all that to say, these storms can pop, okay? And they can go from a little cumulus cloud to 60,000 feet in a matter of minutes. It's just really impressive. If you're a photographer in the region, these are really good clouds. I don't want you to get in the middle of a lightning storm, but these are really good clouds to photograph and to do time lapses of. So, if you're just the run of the mill, you have your iPhone and you like taking weather pictures or video, if you have a good view of the thunderheads right now off towards the north and the west, I know the high clouds are kind of getting into us, but if you have a good view of any clouds right now, set up your tripod or set it up against the window and take a good old time lapse of those clouds. What you'll see in this atmosphere is they're bubbling up real quick. You can almost see the movement of the cumulonimbus clouds as they're going up. That's a product of how unstable it is. These are also big lightning producers. So there's lots of lightning with these storms. I'm expecting any storms to develop to have a lot of lightning, very efficient lightning, very frequent lightning producers with these as well. Lots of ice crystals, white, because they're going so high in the sky. I think that's it. I've described these storms enough. So let's look at the modeling really quick, but you can see where these storms are. I mean, they're just really impressive. This line heading over towards Ohio is falling apart. For all my friends in Cleveland, I do have some that watch on the Region Weather broadcast. This line's falling apart. We'll get some gusty winds and some rain off of it. This portion of the line is not. It's closer to the high instability. So Western Ohio down towards Findlay and Dayton, we'll see some severe weather from this, I would imagine. Meanwhile, this part, I don't expect severe weather in Cleveland out towards Ashtabula. Stronger winds with them, yes, but the severe weather component looks fairly low for them. And then down towards Missouri, just big old blockbuster storms. So, rest of the evening, where are we going? Let's show you Storm Prediction Center first. They agree. They're saying yes, there's a real good risk anywhere in yellow to see severe weather. There's your tornado risk. I agree with that. The main risk of a tornado is north of here. That's where the better dynamics are. There's where your damaging wind risk is, which includes us. I agree with that as well. There's where your hail risk is. And that is my main concern from these would be large hail tonight, okay? All right, so let's take you through the modeling. This just completed. This is a 22Z run of the HRRR. The models, again, have been zero help with this whole entire setup. They're never a help in this setup. It's just such a complicated weather pattern where things just rely on what's happening the hour before it, all right? And none of it's predictable. It's not like a typical cold front where we have the cold front, we can see where the cold air is, we can tell where the storms are going to develop. It's basically a chaotic atmosphere that's completely random. There's some organization to it until like we can tell where storms will develop. But in terms of forecasting this more than 6 hours out, it's nearly impossible. And it's funny because I popped on the Weather Channel today. I don't normally watch them, but I popped them. They were talking about the same thing, how this is an extremely changeable forecast. It's just this weather pattern. We've been in this 3 times this year where you have the heat dome and you have the storms that go around it. The models they're no help because it's so chaotic. And I don't know how many years it's going to take until computer models are helpful with this. So all that to say, take the modeling that I'm going to show you with a grain of salt, okay, because it could certainly change. I gave you my analysis that's coming from a human. I'm not saying it's correct, but with my years of experience doing radar analysis and forecasting next to Lake Michigan, that's how I think it's going to go. I think these storms are going to bubble south into our area. Here's what the model says, though. This is the latest HRRR. I have not looked at this yet. I do like the initiation. It has the storms where they are right now or pretty close to it. As we go through time this evening, there you go. I do like this. It develops storms out over Lake Michigan. It slowly evolves these storms further south into Chicago here over the next hour or so. And there you go. It brings pretty decent storms into Northwest Indiana. Thank goodness, because a few model runs ago, this was keeping most of the storm action away from us this evening, which I don't think is going to be the case. So here's your storms. This is like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And then you go into midnight and 1. And then after that, it sinks them down to the south. I could see some more storms developing back in Illinois, like in here where they didn't get rain yet. I mean, all this is basically cooling off the atmosphere. So if it cools it off in one spot, that cool air will go out and it'll cool it off in this spot. You'll get big storms to develop here and here. It's all trying to stabilize the atmosphere, and it's like putting out fires. Essentially, that's what these storms are doing. And right now we're on fire because it's hot, and these storms want to cool us off. So it's going to want to jump to all the spots where it's been really hot. So there's that. And then the modeling takes, I mean, this is fantasy land on the HRRR with this weather pattern, but it brings these storms through, and then it kind of keeps some rain around as more storms are going down towards our south. Okay. So that's what I have for you in terms of the forecast. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so we can get a more localized look. There you go. Let me just throw counties on here too, just so we can kind of see the counties. Let's see, and then we'll answer your question. So here we are. I don't know if you can see this. Hopefully you can see this pretty well. Here's Northwest Indiana. I have my radar app, which I gladly get into. I'd have to switch sources. I don't want to do that because this serves its purpose right now in terms of these storms. So let's just make sure there's nothing else going on. There's a ton of lightning with these right now. They're getting into Evanston. Highland Park's getting nailed right now. Almost constant lightning with these in the Highland Park area. Evanston's next. The outflow boundary is kind of merging around Elmhurst. Arlington Heights, Schaumburg now starting to see some development back in this area right here. So I would imagine as this continues to sink down to the south, we see more development down to the south as well. Okay. All right. Let's answer your questions. I'm going to start at the end. If you're asking a question now, that's the one that's going to get answered. Josh asked, so it looks like we're going to get slammed, huh? Josh, the potential's there for that. I've also seen these situations where we have storms and they will stay out over the lake and we get nothing here. We're just looking at a lightning show all night. So I'd be cautious saying slammed. But I have a feeling, Josh, I have a good feeling that these are going to bubble their way down into the region here tonight, just because the setup's there, the lake breeze is there, everything kind of lining up. And again, I don't shy away from the tough forecasts. All right. That's my call. I'm calling that right now. All right. I know a lot of other forecasts and a lot of other online folks will just tell you where the storms are right now. And to me, that's not helpful. Okay. I know it's raining and it's nasty at my house. Okay. And I'm not doing current, weather setup right now. I'm trying to predict the future on these and where these are going to bubble. And that's without help from modeling. So again, that's how I think it's going to go. I think they're going to bubble into Northwest Indiana here over the next couple hours. And I do think we have a severe risk. The other thing is, this is a new development here back towards Illinois. Is this whole thing starting to kind of develop? Are we going to see this giant kind of big blob of storms develop? The modeling doesn't have that, but I could certainly see that because a lot of it has to do, see these old storms, and this is, I'm just kind of trying to teach a little radar 101 here. These old storms and this old rain coming out of Iowa and Western Illinois, there are boundaries from that. All of this, when you have rain hitting the ground, it brings a lot of air down to the ground, and that air can't go into the ground, so it goes out. That's what the outflow boundaries are. Outflow boundaries are that wind that you feel out in advance of a storm. That's from the rain falling inside the thunderstorm, and it pushes that cool air in the ground, can't go into the ground, so it comes out. So that's why you get gusty winds often before a storm, before it starts raining, before a storm moves in, right? And so this rain, these are old storms, and so they have boundaries. There is wind coming out from that. You can kind of see it here on radar. There's a little line there. That may get triggered and trigger some more storms here as these storms down in areas of southern Iowa here. Those are putting out boundaries to the north. So more than likely right now we have a boundary coming off of these storms in this direction where my mouse arrow is. And we have a boundary coming this way. So that's going to trigger, as it looks right now, some storms in here. So all of these boundaries are at play and they're all bouncing up against each other. And they can all create little puffs of big storms wherever they collide. And so it's such a fascinating setup and it's super challenging because, again, there's no help for modeling and it's kind of a nowcast. We kind of look at the radar and say, all right, here's the best chance of a storm developing over this spot, even though there's not even a cloud right now. It's kind of cool. So anyway, all that to say, there's a chance we get slammed tonight for sure. Yeah, Becky, I would say a little earlier than 10 for Northwest Indiana. I mean, right now it's 6:38. I would probably say 7:30, 8 o'clock is when we need to be watching. I mean, these storms north of Chicago right now are going to start to work their way down to the south as I see it right now. So that's the immediate threat. We would have a threat 10, 11 o'clock if this stuff gets going back towards central Illinois. It just depends on how this fills in. But just know, I mean, this stuff is blowing up in an atmosphere that there's no question if there's enough energy to support storms. Sometimes in the fall or spring or even in the wintertime when we get storms, there's usually not, sometimes it's the question of, do we have enough energy to produce thunderstorms? Is our cape going to be high enough? That's not in question. These storms will sustain themselves. I don't expect them to die out after sunset like a lot of times they do. I think these things will be going pretty well through much of the night, wherever they end up. All right. Doesn't mean it's always going to be here. Joan, you're absolutely welcome. My pleasure to keep you informed. Yeah, Al, Iowa City, everything's kind of east of Iowa City right now. So they are still they still have a threat in Iowa City for some of these storms here tonight. I think the bulk of it's going to be more in our area though. Okay. Like Illinois and then areas of, Northwest Indiana. I do think this will stretch into northern Indiana eventually as well. But I think the best threat is going to be east of Iowa City. Tornado threats north of Lake County. Yeah, Crystal, great question. So, the highest tornado threats up there, I can't rule one out. And one of the reasons why, it's not necessarily the way our atmosphere is structured right now locally. We do have a very low tornado threat from these. It is higher, as you mentioned, up in the Wisconsin border, northern Illinois. But we also have a lake breeze in play. And sometimes lake breezes can almost act like a warm front does, where it's a boundary. Okay, we talk boundaries where the wind is coming in different directions. Okay. And what that can do, if you have a thunderstorm that's doing its own thing, and sometimes it'll interact with that lake breeze and it'll start to do some squirrely things where you can get wind pushing in off the lake into that storm. It can cause it to rotate. It doesn't happen all the time, but I've seen it before where lake breeze interaction can tend to do some weird things with thunderstorms. So I don't want to say the tornado risk is only north of here. It's low here locally. It's not zero, though. That's the thing. If it was zero, I'd let you know that. But there is a small tornado risk from this here tonight. My biggest concern is for large hail and for damaging winds out of these. All right. This large hail is number one on my list. And then damaging winds would be second. Tornado would be third. Okay. Let's see. Oh, how much rain? Let's see. Susan, impossible to tell how much rain. So these things are they're putting down some real heavy rain. You can measure that. We can measure how much rain can be wrung out of the atmosphere at in any given column. I know that sounds technical. Basically how heavy it's going to rain. And we're out at the upper echelon for how heavy it can rain tonight. All right. So if any storms do decide to sit, or perhaps it develops and we see some back building, we could have some flooding out of that as well. I think that's going to be more the exception rather than the rule here tonight. But our atmosphere is loaded full of moisture, and you can tell that with our dew point. Our dew point's sky high as well, so it's ultra muggy outside. We can get some really heavy rain from these, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, Maxwell, I was thinking about you when I was talking about that lightning for sure. I mean, we could get some really good lightning picks out of this tonight. Just be safe when you're doing it for sure. Kathy, straight line winds are a potential. Yeah, when I say damaging winds, that's what I mean by that. Some of these storms will grow up 60,000 feet in the atmosphere, and they can come down with a tremendous amount of energy. There's some jet stream energy involved, so there's some wind at the mid levels as well. As this cloud goes up into it, the updrafts and downdrafts can pull that jet stream wind down to the surface as well. So damaging winds can't be ruled out with these. My primary threat, though, is hail from these. And damaging wind is secondary. Both are threats, though, tonight, though, okay? Crystal, you're welcome. That's the whole point. We try to be super informative and helpful. My goal is for you guys to learn weather and to enjoy it, because it's super fascinating. One of my favorite parts of my job is going to the schools and teaching, the kids about weather. And I tend to really like the kindergartners because that's more my mental state. But anyway, so there's that. But I like to teach. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Elijah's giddy about the hail. Elijah, that's so funny. Large hail is a threat here tonight, buddy. If anyone is looking for insurance claims on your property, whether it be new roof, whatever it happens to be, I am not going to say that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but there's a chance with some of this hail tonight that we may have some of that. And PSA, publicserviceadjusting.com is your place to go. A good little segue there to one of our wonderful sponsors. Cheryl, it depends. So again, the modeling does some of the modeling, at least in the last 2 hours, does not even bring this into the region. All right. There's a chance we don't get any storms at all. I think we are going to get storms. I think they're going to bubble their way south into our region. It'd probably be in another hour and a half or so, hour and a half, 2 hours. We'll have to keep our eye on the Chicago stuff. All right. After that, we run a risk pretty much the rest of the evening into the overnight from anything that develops west of here, which is getting going pretty well. So there's that. Kathy, wonderful question. Phoebe, you're welcome for sure. Maxwell can see the anvil tops from Couts. Yeah. Guys, get a good time lapse of these. Get a good time lapse. If you can spare your phone for 30 minutes, put it up against a window, hit the time lapse button on the thunderheads. If you can view the thunderheads, you'll see how fast they're bubbling up. They'll go blah, blah, blah. There's just so much energy in the atmosphere right now. So James and Nancy and Kathy asked pretty similar questions. How long are these storms going to go through? Am I expecting them to stay around for a while, or fast movers? So they're pretty slow movers individually, Kathy. So they're going to, it just depends on how big the storm is. Like the storm in northern Illinois, for example, notice how it's going through and then it's developing more off towards the west. So we have the potential to get hit with a storm that's nasty with a lot of lightning and thunder. It may back off for a second, then we could get another storm that develops off of that. So then you're back into heavy rain and lightning again. Overall, I would probably put the window with any one storm, with like the worst of it, maybe 1 to 2 hours at most. After that, the biggest storm should move on out if that were to happen. This is really speculating, but the big storm would move out at that point, and you just probably get rain and lightning the rest of the evening. These are putting on a good lightning show. So once we get dark here, we're going to be talking good lightning here as we go throughout the rest of the evening. Okay. Mark, no problem on the time frame again. We have to watch the Chicago stuff first. This is super tricky forecast. So I'm just speculating what's going to happen with the radar. Again, the models aren't much help, but this stuff coming out of Chicago, this big giant storm in Chicago, is going to interact with our lake breeze. And I think over the next hour and a half to 2 hours, we'll start to see that storm not only get closer, but we'll see storms develop off of that. All right. So I think we'll get them poking up into the sky here another hour and a half, 2 hours. Okay. So 6:45, 7. I would say 8 o'clock. Let's start paying attention. 7:30, we need to start paying attention. All right. Because our atmosphere could go at any moment, but I've got us around 8 o'clock, maybe starting to see some stuff here locally. Okay. Becky, you're welcome for sure. Harry, that's fine. Hobart has a chance equally with everyone else with these storms as they move on in. Let's see. Ethan, I got to keep this. Ethan's asking about Northeast Ohio. Ethan, this is for Northwest Indiana, and I want to focus on them. I'm not too worried, Ethan, about the Akron stuff. It's really starting to kind of fall apart. It's outflow driven. The stuff in Western Ohio is bigger, though. Okay. That's more on the instability gradient. So I'm not too worried about this line coming into the Akron area tonight. Okay. Just FYI. So Susan, this corn sweat humidity does not get out of here till Friday. So it's going to stay sticky around here through Friday. Tomorrow's not as warm, though. If we get a big chunk of storms to develop here this evening, which we are, I mean, they're coming together now, all of that's going to zap the atmosphere and push this frontal boundary south. So we wouldn't be quite as warm tomorrow, and our severe risk would be a little bit lower as well. But we're going to have on and off storm chances all the way through Thursday night into Friday. Humidity is going to be up as well. And then that front goes through and it's going to bring in perfection for Labor Day weekend. In fact, another front looks to go by just before Labor Day, and Labor Day temperatures tank even more, like almost fall like on Labor Day itself. So kind of interesting for sure. Let's see. Yes, Steven, the White Sox game for sure. Is anyone paying attention to the White Sox anymore? My goodness, what a season, right? Well, I appreciate that. Mariana, I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate your comment there. That was very nice of you to say. Kristen, you're welcome as well. Samantha, you're welcome as well. Tammy, are you saying, is Lowell going to get it? Yeah, I think that's what you're asking there. Yeah, Tammy, it's going to eventually get down in there for sure. So what we're watching is this outflow boundaries pushing out. You see it there on radar right now. And look how this has happened. We had one storm, and I mentioned that outflow would be producing more storms, and it's happening right now. See how more storms have developed on the south side of this? This whole thing is going to gradually make its way in our direction, and it'll continue to pop big storms on the southern end of it. All right. And it's going to be curious to see what happens here in Illinois, too, with this. See, look at this storm. Look how fast this storm went going where my mouse cursor is right now. There was nothing 5-10 minutes ago, and now there's a big robust thunderstorm with lots of lightning. So we'll see if this fills in here. This could start to fill in a little bit more as we go throughout the rest of the evening. We'll see. Robert went through 3 pairs of underwear today. I got you beat, Robert. Just kidding. That's gross. Lorna, you're welcome. Maxwell, yes, it is super fascinating. Weather is. Kathy, no, LaPorte County's not out of this. This is for all Northwest Indiana. That's a really good question because this seems to be, Lake and Newton County driven because that's where the severe thunderstorm watch is. But no, we could see the severe weather kind of bubble into Porter County. And I mean, look at the instability. I still have it on here. All these reds, these little lines you see, we're just as unstable in Porter, LaPorte counties, Jasper County, Stark County as we are out towards the west. So depending on how this evolves, Weather Service may end up issuing a severe thunderstorm watch further east as well. We'll see. They're waiting on this as well. All the meteorologists are waiting on us. They're waiting to see how does this respond in our atmosphere? Where do these storms end up going? But again, I gave you my best guess in terms of how this is going to evolve. This thing sinks south. We see bubbles all over Northwest Indiana eventually. And again, hail is going to be primary risk. So get that car in right now into the garage. Just clean up your outside before it's, before the storm starts to bubble up close to us. Okay. So there's that. Yeah. Heather, are you doing a time lapse of it? The cumulonimbus clouds? Yeah, it's crazy. The atmosphere is just so loaded with energy right now. It really is incredible. Robert, I make up words all the time, but usually people know what they mean, which is great. So I appreciate that. Yeah, that's good. Looks like alphabet soup. That's funny. Yeah, Jacob, I'm glad our tornado chance is low too. We'll still have to keep a close eye on this, though. Okay, we'll need to keep an eye on these storms, but just make sure I have a way to stay alerts for sure. Ashley, I know, me too. These are going to be good old-fashioned thunderstorms if we do get them. Let's say, best case scenario, they stay out over the lake and they, stay out over Lake Michigan, which I don't think is going to happen, but you would get a really good lightning show. All of us along the lakeshore counties. If you look up in these storms right now, as we start to get darker here this evening, you're going to see good lightning out of these. There are a tremendous amount of lightning with these. It really is incredible. So they're going to be great for viewing from a distance. But again, I have a feeling these will not only traverse the lake, but bubble their way south into the region. Michigan City, heads up for you. New Buffalo. I think these storms will get out over the lake. We'll have to keep an eye on how those interact with the lake. I mean, I think we're going to get storms that, are heading on shore in about an hour or so, hour and a half. So something we need to watch for sure. Okay. I know we do need rain, Kathy. We need rain. It just has been so, we've had these dry stretches where it's just been so dry, and I know most of us need rain. We're back into a drought here locally, so we certainly could use it. All right, so yep, Carla's saying we need rain too. Okay, guys, so here's what we're gonna do the rest of the evening. Here's your plan. I have to go to bed because I have a morning show. We've got a severe weather threat here locally as well. So I want to leave you with that. The storms hit at the wrong time for morning meteorologists. I hate to say that, but I hope you feel like you're in good hands in terms of how things are going to evolve. All right, as long as you have a way to get warnings on your phone. I would imagine we're going to get some, if these do make their way into the region, I'm just assuming at this point, but if they do make their way in, I would imagine we're going to get some severe thunderstorm warnings out of these, okay? And it's probably going to be for large hail, and we're going to have some pockets of some strong winds within these, all right? So what can you do? Well, you can prepare right now, okay? Again, charge your phone, make sure everything outside's cleaned up, get the cushions off the patio furniture, park the car in the garage. That way it's not getting hailed on if we have hail. Those are the things you can do. There's not much else you can do outside of that. And then you can be weather aware by having a way to get watches and warnings. All right. I don't think a lot of these storms are going to be storms where we need to be hunkered in our basement or, waking the kids up. Stay with your normal schedule here tonight as you're getting the kids off to bed because I know they have school tomorrow. So I don't think we need to just disrupt our schedules. We just need to make sure we have our phone or some way to get alerts close by. That way we know, okay? And then when you get the alert, tap on it, whatever app you're using, and just read it. See what it says in terms of movement, in terms of where the storm's going and what the threats are for that. That's going to be the big one, okay? And most of them are probably going to say hail and damaging winds, okay? Lots of lightning with these as well. So, don't take a shower or take a shower now. Get the kids in the bath now. You don't want to be doing that stuff when it's with the tremendous amount of lightning that's possible out of these tonight. Make sure the phone's charged just in case you lose power if we do have pockets of damaging winds. All right. I'm not overly concerned about a tornado risk. Again, it's very low, but I've seen things happen as they interact with a lake breeze. I do see this outflow boundary really picking up some steam right now. So what that may do is actually it may bump up our storm timing to maybe in the next hour or so if that continues to kind of fly down to the south. But that may kind of counteract and take that lake breeze out of the picture, which I would be happy if it did that. If this whole line right here kind of wipes out that lake breeze and becomes the dominant flow off of these storms, that would take lake breeze out of the picture, which would much more limit our tornado risk. Okay, it's very low right now, but if that outflow boundary were to head all the way down to the south and kind of clear things out ahead of these storms, then I could almost say we'd have a 0 tornado chance out of these, which would be good. So we'll see if that evolves, but that's that. Okay. All right, guys. So that's all I got for you. You guys rest easy as well. Again, that's cute. Andrea, that's cute. I got your message. That's super, super sweet. But anyway, so if you guys, again, if you have pictures or anything like that, feel free to post them. You can attach them to this post on our Facebook page. You can go back and watch this video just to check for accuracy. I usually do. And again, I'm up super early in the morning. I'm up like 1 o'clock your time. So any pictures, anything like that, I'll see. And if there's any storm still rolling around then, I can hop back on and do some updates. But I have a feeling they're going to be gone by then. So there's that. We might still have some rain and lightning overnight tonight. We'll see. Okay. All right. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on all that good stuff. And my phone's going off right now with all the watches and warnings and all that good stuff. There is just so much lightning with the storm over Evanston and out over Lake Michigan right now. This baby right here is putting out some lightning. There's just tremendous amounts of lightning. And then that outflow boundary is now getting into like the Naperville and Oak Lawn area right here. So we'll see how that interacts with things. But I would imagine we just get some good old fashioned thunderstorms in and around the region tonight. Okay. And it's still not a guarantee that we get rain. I know the storm's so close, but it's not a guarantee. But that's just kind of how I feel like things are going to go. Okay. All right. I'm talking too much. All right. I will talk to you guys soon. Again, any pictures or videos or time lapses that you have, feel free to post them on here. Okay. All right. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join me. I appreciate it.